I was born in the 60s, on one of the worst estates in London. And let me tell you, things were grim. Yet you still find some bitter old flag wavers looking back in time through the bottoms of their grotty beer glasses and telling you that those were the good old days. Days when you could leave your pints of milk on the doorstep and no one would touch them. That's as maybe, but you'd still hear about kids going missing on their way to school. For me, childhood was a brutal time, full of bare light bulbs and angry black shadows. I learnt from very early on that it was us or them, us being the poor and them being the rich. One of my earliest recollections of getting done over by them was when the Queen came to visit. The council came round to our flats and repainted all the doors and windows for the first time in donkeys, before laying down fresh turf over what was nothing more than bare and cracked old paving slabs. We didn't recognise the gaff, and so, when the old rip actually turned up, we were told by our betters to turn out and cheer her on. She stared at us down the end of her toffee nose, stayed about long enough for a shit and a shave before swanning back off in her limo and never looking back. The day after she left, the council came back and swagged back all the turf, leaving the gaff looking like the dump it was. I made up my mind there and then that if anyone ever took anything away from me ever again, I'd exact revenge. It weren't long after seeing how well turned out the other half were that I started to take real pride in my own appearance. I decided that if you wanted respect, you had to dress sharp, a philosophy I carried through my teenage years and made me the man I am today. You got to be right up to the mark in this game. Ain't nothing more off-putting than a scruffy gangster. You stroll about like some bloody paraffin. You ain't going to get a sniff of any sensible graft. Sharp clobber enhances a man's reputation, but it's got to be the ream tackle. You won't never catch this hombre dead in High Street gutter schmutter. I'm strictly South Molton Street, baby. And so, after giving my reflection the once over in a window of a feng shui shop gone bust, and patting down the gum bulge in my jacket, I straighten back my shoulders and stroll into Tipples, a yuppified boozer on the scrag end of Mile End Road. It's owned by a very good pal of mine, Tiger Teeny. Tiger was a British middleweight boxing champ back in the 50s, as well as being an enforcer for the Cray twins, who, as it so happens, were born less than a 5-minute stroll from the bar. The gaff is half empty when I arrive, it being only just past noon, but the stink of last night's booze lingers in the air, leaving me pleased that I never knocked back a full English breakfast, or I reckon I would have puked all over the wooden floor. After nodding my arrival to a worn-out bint behind the jump, I make my way up 2 flights of stairs before emerging into a private function room where I catch sight of the man I've come to meet, Freddie Cannon. He slumped over a table, looking as washed out as a granny's tit, while fiddling nervously with a half-drunk glass of sweetened orange juice. Freddie's a very well-connected wide boy who made his dough and name in a lucrative topsoil game before moving into ringing and pinging prestige motors and poggering the granny out of page-free snatch down on his yacht in Marbella. His younger brother Terry has just been stabbed to death, only 21 years old. Crying shame. The kid was only a bit player in the West End, flash but harmless. Seems he'd been having a quiet after-hours booze in the Kit Kat strip club in Dean Street and got a little bit bolshy with someone over some pointless bollocks on the stairs. Insults were exchanged, the other mush pulled a blade and plunged Terry 4 or 5 times before having it on his toes. Terry staggered out to his jag meaning to get himself sorted out, but terrified of needles he got confused and couldn't bring himself to drive to the hospital. The poor bloke ended up slowly bleeding to death during the night on the front seat of his motor. And while his brother Freddie ain't heavy, in fact he can't hold his hands up to save his life, he's got a lot of dough wrapped around his bollocks and he's well in with people like me and my firm, which makes him a dangerous bloke to cross. "Sorry about your brother, Freddie," I say, shaking his hand and taking a seat opposite. "Buried him yesterday, Billy. Did you know him?" No, we never met." "Beautiful he was. Wouldn't harm a fly. Well, when I say wouldn't harm a fly, I mean you'd kill a fly if it landed in his grub or something, but who wouldn't? But I mean, he never carried a tool or, anything like that." "You're fucking terrible, Freddie. I mean, you can understand someone carrying a blade when there's a bit of graft to be done, but only slags carry knives for a night out on the tiles." "Yeah, you're right, Billy." "Any word on the bloke who did it?" Maltese Tony Falcone. Never heard of him. What's he like? Oh, fucking peasant. Tons of aftershave, smelly armpits. Before he come over to this country, he was probably pimping out goats. You see, the thing is, Billy, I've had the old Bill round here non-stop, driving me bloody mad they are. Of course, I won't say nothing to those slags, but, what's the actual strength of this mush? Oh, he's an absolute mug. No disrespect to your brother, but, got a bit of a reputation for plunging people, but that's about it. Just makes it even harder though, doesn't it? I mean, if he was done by one of the chaps, that's one thing, but my little brother, topped by some non-entity, this bloke's got to go. How'd he get his living? Well, from what I can gather, he hangs up around King's Cross picking up teenage runaways, gets them on the brown and then on the game. No one's going to miss him if he cops one in the canister, I could set him up like water. He's on the pinball machines every night in Soho, it'd be a piece of piss. Thing is, Billy, my hands are tied, mate, as you know. Killing ain't my game, and me two cousins Jerry and Georgie have been bloody weighed off for 20s, plus, the missus's film career's just taking back off. If I pick me hooter in public, it's all over the papers the next day. Well, look, do you want me to sort it? Yeah. Alright, how much? Bottle? But I only want proper people in on it, Billy, no cowboys. I tell him to leave it with me, because 200 gorillas for a hit is proper dough. I mean, you can give any mongrel in a Mac 10 large to top someone, but the chances are he'll get caught. And when he does, a dime to a dozen, he'll scream the old bill shop down and get everyone else in the swindle nicked. You want proper people, you've got to pay the proper price. After talking the situation over with my partner, Danny Longshanks, his greed finally outweighed any reservations he might have had, which means we've decided to take the job on ourselves. 5 days later, I'm easing a ringed Kawasaki through the bumper-to-bumper traffic of Soho's Chinatown with Danny riding pillion. Slung over his shoulder is a courier bag containing a Silence .32 semi-automatic. We're both decked out in racing leathers, with our faces hidden behind full-face crash helmets. It's a good disguise, because motorcycle couriers are to a penny in this neck of the woods. We've picked a Saturday night for the bit of graft, because old Bill will be busy with pissed pricks and pickpockets. Plus, the weekend gridlock will make our getaway easier. Hooking a right into Wardour Street sees me taking a quick shufty in my wing mirrors to check we ain't being tailed, before slowing down to ease a right into Old Compton Street. 200 yards up ahead, I catch sight of our destination, a Maltese Tony's nightly hangout, the Golden Goose Amusement Arcade. My stomach knots slightly as I glide the bike towards the pavement outside. Although I ain't a novice in the hit game, it ain't stopping me from crapping bricks. It's only natural. We're talking Big Bird here. All it takes is some part-time have-a-go hero or nose ointment plod to come creeping along at the wrong time, and we've got to shoot our way out of the West End. And if old Bill cops a bullet while we're doing it, then we're screwed. They don't release cop killers in this country. Take Harry Roberts. Blew away 3 pigs in '63 and he's been banged up ever since. People I know who've met him in the nick have watched him shrink from a terrace hero to sad old man as his bird sucked him slowly dry. Each year he tells his nick pals he's getting out, and each year the authorities knock back his jam roll. The pitiful thing is he's got about 10 grand saved up and he thinks he's going to come out and start again. What the mug don't realise is that 10 grand don't even get you a decent second-hand motor nowadays. In case of grief, I'm tooled up myself with a small sawn-off loaded with buckshot and stashed down the front of my jacket. On parking up the bike, I leave the engine idling and check my mirrors once more. After giving Danny the thumbs up, he slides off the back seat and strides purposefully past a tribal-scarred Nigerian sitting at the change counter before disappearing quickly into the flashing neon and clatter of the arcade. I can picture the scene. 1 minute Maltese Tony will be standing there with his legs splayed, gunslinger wide and sucking hard on an unfiltered fag as he dry humps his favourite pinball machine. The next, he won't even know what's hit him, and his moo will be sliding down the plate glass of the machine, while a silenced bullet is ricocheting round the inside of his bacon bonce at 900 miles an hour before exploding out of his eye socket in a mess of sinew and busted eyeball, spraying bone splinters and bits of brain all over the machine's flickering fascia. Then there'll be just a single split second of freeze-frame stillness. A moment when anyone watching will hold their breath, not quite believing what their eyes are showing them. Just like you see the cheering crowd suddenly stop when JFK copped it in the nut, and then Maltese Tony will slump slowly to the floor and come to a rest in an undignified heap of dead ponce, his busted head pissing blood all over the arcade's monogrammed carpet. Dead as a dodo. No replays, you mug.